Okay, good afternoon. This is Satish Menon from Agiliron again. Welcome to the part 2 of our partner training. There is a question section in GoToWebinar, which you can use to post any questions as they come up. So feel free to post any questions, etc., as we go along, and we'll pick it up at various points as we walk through the various modules here that we'll cover today. So today's agenda is first we'll focus on customer onboarding. So we'll go through the checklist that we use internally for implementing customers, and we'll look at the sequence of steps, etc., that we have kind of refined over time in terms of what makes the most sense in terms of getting things done efficiently. So that's fun. The second is we'll cover the point of sale. We'll set up a point of sale channel, walk through the various configuration options and so on that's available now within the point of sale channel. So that'll be item 2. Third, we'll cover the e-commerce web store theme editor. This is something that we introduced last year, and it's continued to evolve and get better in terms of all the features that it offers. So we'll do a walkthrough of that. And then finally, the warehouse app. My colleague Shauna Davenport is here. She will walk through a demo of the warehouse app, running it off of an iPad and sharing it through the desktop. So that's the agenda for today. 4 different topics, and we'll spend about even time on each of these buckets. And then tomorrow we'll basically spend all the time in the CRM and back office. And with a specific focus on the business intelligence module, which is a new one that we introduced last year again. And now, having spent a good 6 months in the field, it has really matured into something that's a pretty good tool, especially for management reporting. So we'll spend a big chunk of time tomorrow on the BI module. Okay. So that's the agenda for today and tomorrow. So starting with the deployment, the customer onboarding piece, this is the link to the checklist. And again, for those who might have missed the call yesterday, we'll be sharing a recording of all the sessions along with the foils once we finish the last session on Friday. So you don't need to save these links and stuff. The files will be coming to you. But the link to this is pretty simple. It's agiliron.com, partners, and then the Excel spreadsheet. So let me go ahead and bring up that spreadsheet. Okay, so this is the Excel spreadsheet that is our most recent deployment tracker. And we have a section here for expectations, which is really to, obviously internally here, there are specific hours purchased by the customer in terms of implementation, etc. So we track that. And then also basically establish, timelines, those types of things, so that we have a shared understanding of what needs to be done and how we're going to go about it, who are the people that are going to be involved, so on and so forth. So that's what this first section is about, is really gathering some of that information and getting that all down on paper. And then we essentially share this document with the customer. It's meant to be a live document that both of us are working off of, and this essentially establishes what what we hope to get done during the implementation process. Then we have week 1, week 2, week 3, and week 4. So the checklist is essentially broken up into 4 weeks. That's our typical deployment schedule that we try to set goals for. Now, obviously, our ability to get that done in 4 weeks is somewhat dependent on the customer's ability to get us information, etc. Right? So this is assuming that, one, there is a cooperative, flow of information both ways that allows us to actually meet these targets, and secondly, that this is doesn't have some sort of complexities beyond what is normal. So examples are, if the customer has requested some custom development, or if there are some external integrations needed or something like that that is outside of the normal deployment schedule, then it may stretch out longer. If it is a big customer with tens of users, there may be some training requirements, etc., that could stretch out a little bit, right? So I think other than the outliers with those kinds of special circumstances, by and large, our goal is 4-week deployment schedule. Okay. So on week 1, what we try to do is get some quick wins, right? So our goal is let's deliver the set of things that immediately deliver success, and that means seeing orders come into the system, the various pieces that they want connected, that we do all of that right out of the gate. Okay, so you will see as I walk through this week 1 schedule that the primary goal is wire up everything that needs to be wired up, right? So this includes channels, ShipStation, payments, QuickBooks, all of that kind of stuff, so that at the end of week 1, we actually have something that is feeding orders into the system. All the pieces are all wired together, and now it's a question of making sure that we configure things that need to be configured in the right way, right? So on this particular step, obviously we need the connection information from the customer, right? So they have login accounts, so on and so forth, and we can do it one of 2 ways. Either we send them instructions and they do it, which is perfectly fine if it's a customer that is tech savvy enough to do it. Or if that's not the case and they would be happy sharing the login credentials with us, then we essentially do that for them. Okay. Okay, so the first step here is gather a little bit of information. There's obviously some of the stuff that happens during the sales process, but nevertheless, often when people arrive at implementation, it's either not the same people or things may have changed, etc. So it's good to level set on one, what are their current processes, what flows are they using, and there must have been a reason why they considered switching systems and came to us, right? So we really want to understand why they did that, and what were the reasons behind it, and what other pieces of software are they coming from, right? So one is the motivation, 2 is what are their current processes that we need to be worried about, things that we need to make sure that they get trained on when they adopt Agiliron. And then 3, understanding what are the other pieces of software they're coming from, right? Often, unless you query people, they may either miss or forget to mention that they were doing X with this or Y with that. We don't want to find out 3 weeks into the implementation that, oh, there's this other thing, right? So that's what these first 2 steps are really meant to, is make sure we gather the information, do that querying up front, so that we're comprehending the scope of the project before we jump in and start doing stuff. Okay. This is basically the admin password recovery. Questions come up all the time. Hey, I forgot my password. What do I need to do? Login, that type of stuff. So we want to make sure that people understand, how to manage their passwords and stuff out of the gate. And so let me spend a minute on that. So user management here is under this wrench icon, which is settings and users. And here's all the users that are set up in the system. If you click on any one of these users, there are 2 options to reset passwords. One is you can just click the reset password button, and that will send an email to whatever was the email associated with this particular user account. Or you can do change password, and you, the administrator or whoever it is that's logged in, can actually set a specific password, right? So both of these options are available. In both cases, an email goes out with the new password. The only difference is in the case of change password, you're actually assigning a password. Reset password, the system is generating it for you. In both cases, if the user has become inactive because of the fact that there were too many incorrect logins, then when you do the change password or reset password, the system will reactivate it. Okay. So because of PCI compliance requirements, we do have a policy in place where if somebody tries to log in with the wrong password 3-4 times, then the system will deactivate the user till you reset it and reactivate it. Okay, so that's the password reset. Users and privileges. We can assign users with specific profiles, depending on whether they are sales or marketing or management or point of sale or whatever, right? And this controls what modules they have access to, so on and so forth, right? And this again, it's under that same section we looked at, and if you see here, there is a role field. And this designates, what role they play. And then within each of the roles, there is a profile that says, okay, which modules do they have access to? And within each module, what, permissions do they have to specific fields, that type of stuff. So you can be very granular in terms of this permissions management. The only thing is that the more granular you get, obviously the management headache of, keeping track of that stuff and, and so on does come up. So you might want to be judicious about, what is the right level at which it makes sense to do this sort of business. Now, on the spreadsheet, as we scroll down here, you will see that these reference materials column has links. Okay, and this is pointing to specific sections in our Learning Center, which has information on each of these topics and what needs to be done there and so on and so forth. So I'm not going to spend time on all of these things, going into in detail, because the reference to these things are there, and as you need these, you can bring them up and essentially peruse that to decide what makes sense to apply to a specific case. Okay. So next we move on to beginning the setup piece of this. The first thing that we want to do is set up company information and the warehouse locations. So since this is all about product businesses, minimally we need some product data, and that product data does also need to be associated with how many warehouses they have, whether these are retail stores or actual warehouses. Essentially what we're talking about here is stock locations. In the Premier edition, there is only one stock location available. So if your customer's on Premier, then you just set up one and that's it. On the Enterprise and Global Enterprise, we do support any number of warehouses, so you can decide to set up exactly the ones that make sense for that business. So this happens under Settings and Company Information right here. And so everything at the first level here is just address, phone number, logo, that type of stuff. The logo is important because that's what goes on, any of these, transactional emails, as well as, PDFs, documents generated by the system. They all use this logo image, so it's important to get that in there. And the rest is, basic address and phone and that type of stuff. Down below that is where you have the stock locations. Right, so in this particular case, you can see there's sort of a factory, one in Oakland, San Francisco, and one called Test. And you can set up any number of these. The addresses on here, it doesn't matter as much unless you're using something like Avalara or TaxCloud, right? So if you're using one of those services for tracking sales taxes, then these addresses are important because they go into what is sent over to those services to calculate sales taxes. So the origin of where that particular order is going to ship from is picked up from the address in the stock location. Okay. So this is something we want to set up first. And then we come to the QuickBooks integration, right? So we will connect QuickBooks, and this could be QuickBooks Desktop or QuickBooks Online. If it's QuickBooks Online, then inside of Agiliron, you go to Settings and QuickBooks Setup, and you do that connection. Settings, QuickBooks, and Setup. And here's where you would find a Connect to QuickBooks button. This particular instance that I'm looking at is actually connected to QuickBooks Desktop, which is why you don't see that icon here. But if this was set up for QuickBooks Online, then you would see a button here that says Connect to QuickBooks. You would click that, and then that would allow you to connect to put in your QuickBooks Online credentials, and it would essentially connect the two systems, right? With QuickBooks Desktop, you have to install the Agiliron Sync app. Previously, QuickBooks used to provide one of these, then they've essentially done away with that a couple of years back. So now we provide our own. So the Sync app uses the Intuit API on the desktop to actually talk to the QuickBooks Desktop company file. So you can download that app, install it on your computer where the QuickBooks company file is, and then there you can basically set up the connection to the Agiliron system, the same username, password, URL, etc. And then that would essentially establish the connection between the desktop and your Agiliron instance. Okay. So we want to connect the two systems, and when this happens, once you connect these things, then the list from QuickBooks automatically comes over into Agiliron. This includes things like your chart of accounts, your item lists, your payment method list, all those types of things. And then that allows us to then do the mappings in Agiliron so that your products are connected to the right items in QuickBooks, your payment methods in Agiliron are connected to the right deposit accounts and payment methods in QuickBooks, that type of stuff. And then we have some configuration on the Agiliron side that says, okay, here's where the sales transactions go, what stage does it go in at, all those kinds of things, right? So there's a set of configuration options that we can do on the Agiliron side. But week one, our goal is just wire everything up, right? So we'll connect up QuickBooks first. Then if you're using TaxCloud or Avalara for sales taxes, then let's connect those up. Again, there's a link here that talks towards what we need in terms of credentials, etc., to connect them. So go back to settings. Here there's auto sales tax rate providers. So you can click that. And here you got TaxCloud and Avalara. And in each case, there is an API ID key and that type of stuff that's needed. And once you add those in, which you should be able to obtain from your Avalara account, then you can click test connection to verify that that connection has been established, right? So that's the next thing we set up is connect up your sales tax rate providers. And then we have payments. For point of sale as well as direct sales, we support Vantiv, previously Mercury, and now becoming WorldPay, and Intuit as well, right? So these are the two payment processors that we support. Recently, we've had this integration for Emv Terminals through a service called eConduit, and we'll talk about that when we go through the POS process. And that does allow us to now actually connect to other processors as well, purely on the POS side. So if you're using one of those Emv Terminals and you're using eConduit, then we actually have access to all the processors that eConduit supports, which today is a lot. So that's a possibility if you wanted to take advantage of some one of the other services. So with Vantiv or Intuit, you can choose which one makes sense, and then we can essentially set up the processor for that. So just like we did with sales taxes, we'll go back here, and we'll say payment processors, and you got Intuit and Mercury, right? And again, in this case as well, there are, in the case of Intuit, you have to generate a connection ticket, instructions of which are on that spreadsheet. In the case of Vantiv, once you register as a dealer with them, and a customer is enrolled, they send you a PDF with the credentials that are needed, right? So in both of those cases as well, you can come in and plug those details in here. So that's the next step, wire up the payments. So you get the idea that I think the main thing with week one is just getting all of these pieces in terms of credentials from the customer, making sure we plug all that stuff in. Pretty mechanical process, but at the end of it, you got a system that is connected to all the various pieces that people might want to be integrated with. ShipStation is the other one. So this is for the shipping labels and such. So the two shipping processors we support right now, one is ShipStation, the other is FBA on Amazon. So both of those can be set up for your shipping process. With ShipStation, if they don't have an account, they can subscribe for a free trial, which is available at shipstation.com. It's a 30-day trial, and that allows them to essentially begin, connecting it, playing with it, that type of stuff, right? So again, instructions for that are here. We'll go back here, take a look at this. Under settings, shipping processors. So this is where we would set up the ShipStation integration. So similar to the other ones we saw, basically is an API key and API secrets that's generated from the ShipStation side. You come and you plug that in here. Test connection tells you whether it's good or not. And once it is verified as good, then we are all set on that front as well. Okay. Okay, so so that's the stuff with the connections to various providers. Then we come down to the various channels and stuff, right? So pricing is an important question, right? So if customers have different pricing, either based on customer types, for example, if they're doing wholesale and they got tiered pricing for depending on size of customer, etc., then they may want to have multiple price books. These are similar to price levels in QuickBooks. So you can create those in Agiliron. If they're using different pricing for different sales channels, then again, you can create price books for the different sales channels as well. And then we come down and basically do a first setup of processing a direct sales order, right? So this is just creating a sales order directly in the system. Let me go back here. This is basically you doing a new sales order, right? And then, setting up the processing for that and so on and so forth, right? So, then we have the POS channel, right? Which we will look at, as soon as we're done with the spreadsheet, and then the other channels, right? So essentially, we wired up some of the other services, and then now we basically connect up all the sales channels that they want to use, right? So whether that's the point of sale, whether it's eBay, it's Amazon, it's any of the remote stores like BigCommerce, Magento, Shopify, and so on. Those are the next things that we essentially connect, right? So so that essentially is the goal of week one: is connect up all services, connect up all channels, right? And at that point, we're wired up the system to essentially then take steps in other directions of, populating the data migration from, wherever they're bringing data from, and so on and so forth. Okay. This one is kind of flagged as important because you might want to decide whether you want to have notifications go out for orders, etc., from Agiliron or not. And so we'll look at that quickly. So this is notification schedulers here. And here you can see that by channel, you can turn on or off, whether there's an email going out for order confirmation, which is when an order comes in or is created, when it's shipped, when it is changed, and when there is a back order created, right? So you can decide to turn these things on or off based on channel. And what may be influencing this judgment is, is there a notification going out from the channel itself? Do you want to have a second one go from here, or can you turn it off there? That type of thing, right? So, but this is something you want to do so that, because as soon as you wire up those channels, orders are going to start coming in. And if you don't want notifications to go out from here, then you can turn them off, or if you do, then you can turn them on. Okay. The other piece is this inventory pricing update. So if we look at any of these channels, especially the e-commerce ones, say for example this one, you will see that all of the channels have these 4 settings: auto product update, auto inventory update, category update, and pricing update, right? So when we set up those channels, especially at the beginning, we may want to turn these things off because you don't have your inventory numbers accurate, your pricing may not be set up in the system yet, etc. So it does not make sense to turn these things on, right? So when you set up the channels, turn these things off to begin with, and then once the rest of the setup is complete and you got data that you verified is good in the system, then you can come back and turn these flags on when you're ready to let Agiliron do these updates to the various channels. Okay, and I think that pretty much covers it. So week one, wire up most of the things that you're going to connect Agiliron with. Okay, and that brings you to a very good stage in terms of progress with that particular customer. And then week two, we can then focus on the nuts and bolts of the configuration of these various pieces, migrating data from wherever they're coming from, and so on and so forth. Okay. So week two, as you can see, it starts with the QuickBooks configuration pieces, right? And details of all of that is here on this column K. And this, like I mentioned, is mapping on the Agiliron side in terms of payment methods, QuickBooks configuration, products to QuickBooks items, income accounts, all those types of things, right? And so that's one big piece. The second piece is some amount of training to the customer, how to create a customer, how to create a product, create a sales order, do some shipment, create POs, and so on, right? And if you were on the session yesterday, we talked about that link, agiliron.com/training, which has the basic videos that cover these specific pieces, right? They're short videos, meant to essentially hit these basic functions, right? Which is what most businesses minimally need. And so this allows them to essentially get a feel for, okay, how are they going to be using it, so on and so forth, right? And then we come down to basically the data migration, right? So customers, which is what these three lines are about. So in Agiliron, customers are accounts and contacts, accounts being organizations, contacts being individuals. So if you come bringing these from QuickBooks, or if they're bringing this from somewhere else, then we have spreadsheet imports for all of these, right? And when it comes to the imports, if you go to any module in the system, there are these tools at the bottom for import and export, and right next to the import there is a template, right? And so whether it's accounts or whether if I go to products, there is an import, and in the case of products, there are some other options in terms of exports and stuff as well. But in each case, there is a template right there that you can pull down. It's an Excel spreadsheet, tells you, with instructions, what are the fields and what you need to input there. There are examples, all of that stuff available there. Okay. So that's customers, and then similarly there's one for product categories. So categories have two purposes in the system. One is for purposes of reporting, that type of stuff within Agiliron and the VI module. So that's meant for internal purposes. The external part of it is, if you wanted to deploy this to e-commerce stores, that type of stuff. This is what your customers would see in terms of navigation and how to search for products, etc., within those e-commerce stores. So there are two purposes to this, and so you might want to think about how you categorize your products, hierarchy, that type of stuff, so that it really represents the best way to break it down. Within Agiliron, products can be in multiple categories, so it's not that there is a each product can only be in a specific category. You can actually list them in multiple categories depending on where it makes sense to have them pop up. Okay, and then you got the product data itself, right? So one thing to keep in mind here is that if they are connecting some existing channels like eBay or Shopify or BigCommerce or whatever, then now we do have exports available within each of those channels that allows you to essentially pull out the data that exists there in the Agiliron format. Okay, so if they have one of these things connected, okay, then that represents the best place to start, right? Because especially with e-commerce stores, the product data, pricing, images, categories, descriptions, these are all already there, if they have one of these things ready. And that data is going to be better than, any other places they get this from, right? So within each of those channels, there is a link that says, export product data, export images data. Images are immediately moved from whatever that channel is automatically to our servers, right? And the spreadsheet that generated, using that same template that we just looked at, so that you can then essentially say, okay, this is a great starting point, and then you might just basically need to add things that did not exist in that channel, right? So one good example is that if you're doing this export from an e-commerce store, then they're not going to have cost information. The inventory information may or may not be accurate. Purchasing information, vendor information, those things would be missing. So those are things that you would need to append to complete the product data that you want to bring into Agiliron. Okay, but nevertheless, I mean, this would be 75% of what you need, and that's a great place to start, right? So so look for what is the best source of this data, so that we can actually use a good starting point rather than doing a lot of manual work to get this thing set up. Okay, let me go down here. Similarly, for vendors, we have a template, and then we get down to configuring each of the channels itself, right? So POS we'll look at today as we run through the demo of that. And then similarly, basically within each of these channels that we have wired in, there's obviously some configuration in terms of various controls and parameters, etc. And then so we start doing that, right? And then from there we go on to week 3, which is some of the additional imports, things like leads, for example. If they have a set of leads that they want to bring in that they may be marketing to, haven't become customers, those type of things, then we can do that. If they want to bring in sales history, then we have a template for that, and you can do an import of that as well. And so that's available as a final step in the process. This tends to be the most complicated because of variance in the data and how it's represented, where they're coming from, that type of stuff. So this usually requires more effort. But I think one exception is if you're coming from QuickBooks Point of Sale, we do have an export available that pulls it out of QuickBooks Point of Sale into our import format automatically. And so that's certainly possible in that particular case. So in the case of QuickBooks Point of Sale, we support exports up to the last 3 years. And then I think we do some testing in terms of qualifying the customer, transactions coming in, those types of things. And then finally we have some of the custom fields, those types of stuff. If we want to extend the database with things that are unique to that business, then that's what this particular section is about. Okay, and then finally week 4 is go live, where we work with the customers to check off all the channels that they have, orders coming in, product data set up, make sure everything is working just fine, do some of the training around this stuff, and then essentially our onboarding team transfers things to to the customer to essentially take it from there. And then we do a check-in maybe a few days later, make sure everything is running fine. If there are things that need to be adjusted, then we help facilitate that. And that's kind of the overall implementation process. So so I think the gist of it is week 1, wire up all the services. Week 2, do a lot of that configuration of these services that we brought in, as well as migrating the data, customers, products, vendors primarily. And then in week 3, if we need to do some additional imports, leads, sales history, that type of stuff, we do it along with qualification of everything that's coming in. And then week 4, we do some training and turn things over to the customer. Okay, so let me pause there. This spreadsheet obviously will share with you, and you can look at this offline. Let me pause here, see if there are any questions. before we jump into the next topic. Okay, if not, then let's jump into the point of sale, which is the second topic. So we'll walk through the creation of a channel, editing it, setting up payment, those types of things, setting up user accounts that would use the point of sale. When it comes to hardware, we do have it all on our website, agiliron.com/pos-hardware. So let me take a moment to go there. So this is the link, but you can also access it from the menu up here, get the link to POS hardware. And what we've done is broken this out based on the type of system that you're using. So there is a list for PC desktops and laptops. There's one for Mac desktop and laptops, iPad and iPhone, and Android, right? So if you click into each of these, you will see all the supported hardware from swipers to Emv terminals to barcode scanners, receipt printers, cash drawers, and so on and so forth. So these are the recommended ones, things that we have validated against. Doesn't mean some of the others won't work. Especially on PC, desktop, laptops, most USB supported devices should work just fine. But these are the ones that we can stand behind because we have actually tested them and validated them. Okay. And then when it comes to the app for iPads and iPhones, those are available. The apps are available in the iTunes store. The login credentials are the same regardless of whether you're using desktop, laptops versus tablets or phones, and which is basically the POS user credentials. So you can download these from the iTunes store. Just search for Agiliron. There will be two apps that come up. One is the point of sale, and the second is the warehouse app, which we'll be looking at in a little bit. Okay, so let's go and walk through the process of setting up the POS channel here. Okay, so we'll select, so I went to settings and channels, and then we'll select the channel type, which is retail point of sale. I'll say new channel, and I'll give it a name. Okay. Currencies, and since we are a multi-currency system now, you select what currency that you'll be transacting on in this particular channel. In this case, US dollar. Inventory location, we'll select Oakland. Tax authority will select Oakland sales tax, Alameda sales tax. If you were using TaxCloud or Avalara, then you could select that particular service, in which case it will pick up the sales tax automatically from that service. Price book, you can select from the various price books that you have as to which is the one that applies in this particular channel, and we'll look at the customer specific pricing in a second. Number of lanes, these are basically actual checkout lanes, how many you want to have of those. So let's just say 2. And receipt options, right? So you could have print, email, or prompt. Prompt essentially gives you an option to select per transaction whether you want to do print or email or both. Those options are available. And specials price book is essentially for promotions. So if you're putting a few products on sale, then if those products are in the specials price book that you select here, then during checkout, that price will override the default pricing that you have. Okay, so and then I'll say save. Okay, let me go to the final page here. So this is the POS channel we just created. So I'll go ahead and edit that now. Okay, so this first panel is the set of things that we initially entered as we created the channel. And then now you have some additional panels that go towards, additional parameters and configuration settings that's possible. So discount coupons, if you wanted to configure coupons for customers to be able to get discounts, you can do that here. Payments, by default, it's set to offline credit card, which essentially means that there isn't a processor set up, and we're just going to capture the credit card information for you to process offline. This is useful in cases where some customer doesn't have Intuit or Vantiv, and they want to use an external bank terminal to do it, or they are in a country where the processes that we support do not work. Then offline credit card is the way to do it, where you can process that using an external bank terminal, and then still use the point of sale for recording the transaction, inventory, that type of thing. Okay. But if you're using Mercury or Vantiv, then or Intuit, then you select that, and then you enter the credentials here, just like we did in the previous section, which is the ID, etc., that's provided by that processor. Okay. Split payments. So if you want to support multiple payments on a particular transaction, then you would turn that to yes. And let me leave this as offline for now. And then we'll go to configuration. And so this is where you have a lot of settings for configuring the point of sale and what you want to enable or not. Okay. There are some sub tabs here, one for sales associate controls. What do your POS users want to be, what do you want them to be able to see and do? Customer receipt options, which controls how the receipt printing, etc. happens. And this is one for inventory, one for pricing, and one for sales tax. So let's just go through these. So under sales associate controls, do you want to allow pricing changes? So if you turn this to yes, then your users, POS users, can make changes to the default pricing that comes from the price book. If you turn them off, obviously not. Do you want to allow line item discounts? So per line item, do you want to enable dollar or % discounts? This is order discounts. So for the entire transaction, do you want to support our coupons, or do you want to manual entry of order discounts? This again can be dollars or %. Do you want to allow sales returns? Do you want to allow exchanges? So this particular flag, process returns without terminal, has to do with if you're using Emv Terminals as your payment processing, then when it comes to returns, we have two options, right? One is you can run it through the terminal again and have the customer swipe the card, and then you process the return through the terminal. Or if this is a return on a previous purchase that was made through the point of sale here, then we do capture a token from that transaction, and save it in our database. And that token can actually be used to process the return without having the customer, put in the card again into the terminal. Okay. So this is a flag that allows you to turn that particular capability on or off, whether you want to allow returns to be processed without going through the terminal for transactions which originated from a previous sale that was made here. Okay. This is to allow auto detect. This is basically to have the system use a heartbeat to check, hey, how's your internet connection doing? And if you've gone offline, then automatically takes the POS into an offline mode, okay, which essentially means that you can still transact, but your processing is obviously not possible because you're not connected anymore, and there's no communication to the back office. So in the offline mode, the transactions are all captured and cached on your computer, and then when you're back online, the system will go back into online mode, and then you can essentially sync those transactions, run the cards, so on and so forth. And this is, again, whether you want to enable that offline mode or not. Allow ship orders. So if you do take orders where you're not actually delivering the goods at the counter, but you're going to ship them off later, then you can turn this on, and that allows you to specify whether this is a ship order, when the transaction is complete, it actually goes into the shipping queue in the back office so that your fulfillment people can recognize that this is something that needs to be sent out. And you can record a cost for shipping. You can select the shipping method, so on. Okay. So so let me turn on some of these exchanges. This on. Allow ship orders. Allow reports. So this is allowing you to do sales detail reports, Z outs, X outs, and so on. So turn that on. This is allow assign to selection. And what this means is that if you have a situation where you in the store, you have an open terminal and various sales associates come in, process transactions, and then go away, and it's not permanently manned by one user that logs in, then what you can do is create a generic user, right, that is left logged in on the system. And then if you turn this on, then when that particular sales associate is processing the order, they can say, okay, this particular transaction is assigned to this particular person. Okay, so that way, especially for commissions purposes, etc., this allows tracking of who actually processed the order, even though there is actually only one login that is being shared by multiple people. Okay. This is in terms of search. If you wanted to enable partial match, in terms of looking at product names, product codes, then that's what that's for. Allow line item notes. So for each line item, especially if you have a store where you're taking a lot of custom orders, that type of stuff, then you may want to make notes that capture details of some of these custom orders that you're taking. And so this allows you to do that. I'll turn that on. You'll notice that a lot of these things are off because the POS channel when it's set up, just provides the basic capabilities, and then you can decide which ones of these do you want to actually allow. Cash drawer payouts. This is to enable you to take cash out of the drawer and then use it for simple purchases, that type of thing. If you're ordering a pizza or something of that nature, so you can enable that. Allow clock in, clock out. So this is for time tracking. Allow credit card terminals. So this is for Emv terminals. So if you're using one of those, then you set this to on. Okay. And it won't allow you to do that unless you select Vantiv. And so we'll come and talk about that in a second. Layaways. So if you wanted to enable layaways where you take a payment, a small payment towards the order at the time of transaction, and then you take subsequent payments later, then you can turn that on. Allow hold orders. This is to allow you to be able to put a particular transaction that you're processing on hold. So let's say a customer came up and then they decided they needed to go grab some more items, then you can ring up the things that they brought, put this on hold, process the next customer, and then go back and pull this up and process it later. Right, so we do support on-hold orders. With the quick access buttons for selection of categories, products within categories, as well as SKUs within matrix products, we have a couple of options. It could either be a drop-down menu or a grid selection. So grid selection is basically a layout where it's organized by rows and columns, and you can click and select it. Or you can have the drop-down selection, which both of these options are available. Okay. And then down here you have the payment mapping, right? So for each of the various types that are supported in the point of sale, what do you want to map it in terms of the payment method in the back office? The reason we have this available is that if you got different POS channels and you want the payment methods when they go into QuickBooks in each of those cases to go into a different payment method, then this allows you to have that flexibility to change the mapping, right? And you can decide how you want to actually have these things captured in the back office and then flow into QuickBooks. Okay. All right, so those are the basic options there. And then we have the customer receipts. So here, if you want to turn on electronic signature, which may make sense if you're using an iPad or an iPhone for your transacting. Gift receipts, duplicate receipts, you can turn those on if that's something you need. For charge to account orders in B2B situations, if you want to be able to generate a complete invoice, we do have that available as well. And this will generate it based on the customizable invoice template that we have in the back office, so that you get a 8.5 by 11 invoice, which will be the same whether if you had sent it from the back office. So that feature is available. And then for the various receipts, there is a default receipt that the POS comes with. But if you're not happy with that, or if you wanted to include certain terms on there, or you want to have it look a little bit different or whatever, then we do support customizations of those templates now. So there is a default template for these things in the settings that's available, which you can then take and tweak and customize it as needed. So you can see here there's a POS sales receipt, customizable, return, gift, and so on. So you can essentially go in and customize it. And then once you create those, you can come in here and select the appropriate one. And then the receipt essentially picks up what you've set up as that template. Okay. Inventory options. Do you want to display unit cost? Cost information can be sensitive, and if you don't want that to be available, then you can turn that off. If you have multiple stores, and in each store you want to be able to see what's available in other stores, then you can turn these on as well. Okay. Pricing wise, customer specific pricing. So if you have B2B situations where you allow customer selection, it's not just a retail sale, then you can essentially turn these on, and this will allow you to essentially see that customer specific pricing depending on what has been designated for that particular customer account. Okay, and then we have the BXFY, which if you're familiar with QuickBooks Point of Sale, you kind of recognize what that is, which is by X for Y pricing. So we do have support for that. And there are a couple of parameters on there in terms of, do you require the full group? So if you're saying, for example, buy 3, get 1 free or something like that, then, do you require the purchase of 3 items versus, not? That's what this full group is. And then does a discount apply to quantities above the 3? If you're doing buy 3, get 1 free, then, those are a couple of options available there as well. And then on the sales tax side, so if you select a customer, which sales tax should apply? Is it the default one that we have up here, or the one that is designated for that particular customer? So this might be useful if you are if you got tax exempt customers, that type of stuff. If you set this to customer tax authority, then if you set that customer account up with the appropriate tax, then that's the one that gets picked up here. And the same thing for ship orders. What tax do you want to apply for those? And so you may decide, for example, for ship orders, you want to use Avalara because it really depends on where you're shipping to. So you could decide to use a different one for that, right? So got some configuration there as well. Okay, so that's the you can see obviously a lot of options, a lot of parameters that you can configure, and this gives you a taste of what a configuration of particular channel POS looks like. If you looked at eBay or one of the other ones, obviously the parameters would be different, but similar kind of idea, right? You create the channel, you come back, edit it, and then configure it based on what makes sense for that business. Okay, let me pause, see if there are any questions. Okay, so one question here is, is there a global setup for all point of sale channels? The answer is no. Each POS channel does need to be set up, separately and configured separately. There isn't a duplicate option if essentially if that's what you're asking. So you do have to handle them separately. Now, when it comes to payment and stuff like that, you obviously want these things to maybe have separate accounts, that type of thing. So that's certainly something. But some of these other choices may be something that you want to have replicate. but right now there is no duplicate option, so you do have to create them one by one. Okay, other questions? Okay, if not, I think I'm going to switch to Shauna to cover the warehouse app, and then I'll come back and do the web store editor because we are at 2 o'clock already, and I do want to see the warehouse app being covered. So let me, I think there was one more question. Yes, so I think the ability to duplicate channels and stuff would be a nice feature. We don't have that right now, but we'll make a note of that. Okay, so let me switch over here to okay, Shauna, you ready?
Yep.
Okay, so I'll make you the presenter.
Okay. Let me know when you can see me.
Yes, we can.
Okay, cool. All right, so I'm going to go over the warehouse app today. And you can see here I've got it up on the screen, and you'll just log in with your credentials that you normally use, the admin credentials that you'll use for the back office. And you'll just put in your URL here to your Agiliron instance, and then you'll put in your username and password. Okay, and when you're first setting up the app, there's a couple of things that you'll have to do. So over here on the top part of the screen is settings, and I'm going to touch that here. And this is where you set up how you want some of your things to display. So for the cycle count, you can determine if you want the units to be selected by entering them manually, or if you want to scan them. So if you have a barcode scanner, you can scan in your stuff instead of punching it in manually on the iPad. So I'm going to do enter for mine. Oops. There we go. And then default warehouse location. So you'll definitely want to select this whenever you're syncing orders and doing your cycle counts and processing orders to make sure you've got the right information coming in and going back out. You can select how many orders are displayed on the page here and how many products are displayed. And then you can also set your cycle count reasons. So for the increased reason, if you find things, let's say you just find things randomly in the warehouse, you can select the adjustment reason here. And these adjustment reasons are set up in the back office. So I can select that here. And then the decreased reason would be, of course, if things were damaged and things like that. So you can set those reasons here. Then you can just go back to the home icon to get back. And you can see here I selected Oakland as my warehouse. And so that shows me at all times what location you're in case you get, if you get turned around, you can always look up there and see where you're at. Okay, the other thing that you need to do after your settings are complete, you will go in and sync products from the back office. What this does, this brings all of your products from Agiliron into the warehouse app. And a note about that, for cycle counting, you can control what products get loaded to the warehouse app. So if you have several 100,000 products, and let's say maybe some of them are drop shipped and you don't really need to see them here, you can select, you can kind of limit what comes into the warehouse app so you're not scrolling through several pages of products. And that's set up in the products module in the back office. So the other thing you need to do is sync your orders from the back office. So this will sync your sales orders and purchase orders into the warehouse app. So then you can pick and receive orders, and then you can cycle count and add pictures as well. Okay, the first thing we're going to talk about is picking orders. So when you pick an order, this just is for your warehouse so they can go through and get things ready for shipping. So you can see here, I've got a couple of options. I can group by bin location. So if your products have bin locations, they will be grouped in order here. So I only have one in this list, but they would be grouped by the bin location. You can also group them by SKU. So then you'll see here, these are grouped by SKU code. So then you can pick things, you know, if you, especially if you have like a big warehouse and you're trying to pick multiple orders, you can just get all of the things you need and pick and pack. So you will, to actually pick, you will just select the item here, and then you can select the quantity that was picked. And so if you need to change it, you can click on the little drop down here and change the quantity in the event that you need to, you're out of stock and you only fulfilled part of the order. And once you're finished, you can click the pick button there. And then you're going to get a green check mark. And that lets you know that you have picked this order and you can move on to the next one. So you can move on to the next order and just continue down the list. And then if you have multiple pages to pick, you'll see here you've got first and last. And so you can actually go to the next page and pick the next set of products. So when you're done, you just click the done button. And if you're done with the screen, you can click done or back to finish. And that takes you back to the home screen. Now, you can go ahead and sync everything that you've picked by going down to this sync order and inventory updates to back office, or you can just wait until you've finished. If you haven't finished everything and maybe you need to receive a few things as well, you can continue through and complete all your transactions and sync later, or you can sync every time you've finished one of the modules. So I'm going to go to receiving. And then here's where you can receive your orders. So you can see you can actually look up by vendor name or by order number. And then you can click on the order here. And then you can, if you had more multiple items for this vendor, you could click receive all to receive all of the items on the order. Or you can click down and drill down into it and just receive part of the order. And then for this item, this is actually a serialized product. So if you have serialized and lot products, you will need to enter this information before you can receive the purchase order. So you can just enter your information here. I'm just going to put in some numbers, and then you'll enter the quantity. And then in addition, you can also add a bin location. So you can say this is in bin D, oops. Just put in some numbers there. And then you can actually add notes that will get transferred to the back office. So we'll just call it test. And I click on receive, and that's going to receive this order. So it's going to mark it with a green check mark here. And I can click done. And then that receives this order. And so then you basically do the same thing. You go down through the list. And for example, this one has multiple lines. So I could click the receive all button. And then that just receives everything automatically for me. Or if I need to make a change, I can click on one of these and say, you know what, I only received 15 of those. And you can even put a note here that says, you could say short shipped. And so that way it goes to the back office. And whenever you partially receive an item, you'll notice that this turned yellow. That just indicates that this was partially received. And so once I sync this order to the back office, I can pull this, the next time I log into the warehouse app and pull up this order, it's still going to show my list, and it's going to show me that I have 5 more to receive, and so then I can receive the remaining items later. Okay, so we're just going to click done and go back. Okay, and so that's receiving. And then we have cycle counts. And this is a great way to count your inventory pretty quickly and easily. So if I had a barcode scanner, I could just scan in my items. I'll go over here to select scan unit so you can see what that would look like. So anytime you scan a barcode, for example, if I scanned the barcode for this item, it would automatically add quantity to the adjusted quantity. And then let's say I scanned too many units and I needed to make an adjustment. I can click the plus and minus button here to take away or add quantities that I've scanned. Okay, and I'll go back to enter units, and then you can see here I can just click on one of the products, and then this is a lot product, so I would have to add a lot number and an expiration date and my quantity. And then you can also add additional lots with the add lot button. So if it's in more than one lot, you can add that here. And then if you make a mistake, you can just click the delete icon there to get rid of it. So once you've added your information, you'll just click cycle. And let's go to one that's not a lot product here. They're all lot products. There we go. So I'll just enter a quantity. So you can say 5. And unit cost, you can enter your unit cost as well. And basically the same thing happens. You've got your little green check mark to let you know where you're at in the list. Okay. And then the other thing that you can do is you can now take a picture of your product. So let's say you have some brand new products in and you don't have pictures loaded for them in Agiliron. So once you're receiving that product in, you can actually take a picture of it. And so you click on the button there and you can say, all right, this is my chain. and you'll say add an image there, and you can take a picture with your iPad and it will load it into the product, or if you have some saved in your photo gallery, you can just click on the gallery there, and then it will let you pick up one of your pictures there. So I've got a picture of a chain already, so I can just click up here to the use button. I could say we'll use this, and then that adds it to the product. I click on add picture, and then now I can sync that to the back office, and that picture will actually show up with that product, and so then I can push it to a web store. Once all of my changes are complete, I can click sync order and inventory updates to back office, and this sends everything to the back office, and then I can go in and look at my orders that have been received. My inventory quantities will be updated, and that's pretty much it. Is there anything else you wanted to add, Satish?
Yeah, just a couple of things. I guess there are some questions, and then let me just make a couple of things that I wanted to mention. One is on the receiving side, we do allow you to receive more quantity than was on the order. So if you had if you had ordered 10, but you actually received 12, we do allow you to handle that. I think Sean is going back there. So I think, yeah, I think there's a ad at the bottom, I think, right, Shauna?
Oh, there's an ad.
Yeah, I think if you go back to that quantity dropdown, I think there is a ad at the bottom, I think.
Oh, it's down there. Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
Right,
so you can actually set it to a different quantity to reflect the fact that you received more than you ordered. So that is supported. And then let me just go through the questions here. So one was, is bin numbers validated against an existing list of bin numbers? On the warehouse app side, Lynette, the bin number is a text field, but when it is sent to the back office, it is validated against what's there, so it doesn't blindly just add it. So that is supported. I think there was one question about have you added the ability to show what products are not counted and then be able to set them to 0 quantity? So Shelley, not quite. So that's a feature that we have not added yet. But that is certainly on our list of things to do, which you pointed out previously. One other thing that I think I talked about yesterday in terms of a feature that's coming. So today we walked through the picking flow. So what we will be adding in the next update, which is probably in the next about 3-4 weeks, is the ability for you to also generate the packing slip at the end of that picking flow, and then be able to send that order over to ShipStation for actual shipment. Right, so generate your shipping label. So we'll be extending that pick flow to essentially complete the loop on the pick, pack, ship. So that is something that's coming. Okay, let me see. One other question was, been a while since I looked at Agiliron, wondering if sales kits are available. Yes, so we do support kits within the Agiliron product types. So I think some of the ones that we've added recently are kits, which came in 2017. We have support for Proxy Products, which allow you to create aliases. So essentially you have a master product, and then if you wanted to have multiple aliases that you are either selling under a different product name or product code or something of that nature, then and using it for marketing purposes, then we support Proxy Products as well. We have a dropship product that we added, which are really specifically means that you don't actually maintain inventory and no inventory is tracked. And it has certain dropship properties that we take advantage of. So that's available. So those are some of the new ones that we have added, and then assemblies have always existed. Yes. Okay. So the next question was, any way to get the image to be able to attach to receiver instead of loading as an image for the product info? For instance, you may want to take a picture of the photo that was damaged in shipment from my IC. So Lynette, no, we don't do that right now, but that's a good request. I'll certainly feed that into engineering. Okay, I think that covers it. Any other questions? Okay, thanks, Shauna.
Awesome.
Let me switch it back to my screen. Okay, so then I guess let me go back to my files. There's one thing I forgot to cover on the POS side. So let me just do that quickly. So when it comes to Emv terminals, the ones that we support are what you see on the screen. It's through Vantiv. These are called Deja Vu devices. But like I mentioned, this was the first one that we've integrated with. We've had a lot of deployments at this, and it's going really well. But because of how this particular integration was done, which was through a service called eConduit, we actually can support other processors and other devices. But this is the one that we have deployed the most. And this does support, swipes and pin pads and NFC contactless and all of those types of things. So pretty cutting edge stuff. And so with this particular thing, just like with any Emv terminal, the processing is actually happening on the particular terminal, right? And let me just walk through a few screenshots here that cover what that looks like. Okay, I think there was one more question about transfers between location. So Mike, yes, we do support transfers, not in the warehouse app yet. So that's something that is also coming, going to be added on the warehouse app side. So you can do the transfers in the back office right now. In the warehouse app, that is certainly that's coming. Okay, so let me maximize this. Okay, so on the point of sale, if we turn on that support for terminals, then in this tools menu up here in the point of sale, you will see a option to pair the credit card terminal. Okay, so you do have to log into the point of sale into the specific lane that you want to have this particular terminal be paired, and then you click that option from that menu. And then that brings up this screen, which populates with information that you already have in the system. This does need to coincide with what you provided Vantiv, right? So if your car it's a completely different business name that's been handed to Vantiv, then make sure you enter the information that's actually been provided to Vantiv in this particular dialog, because this needs to be validated against what they have. And then there is a serial number on that terminal. So if I flip it over, you'll see that needs to be entered. And then once you do that, then the pairing is done. Okay. The only key thing to remember is that both the Agiliron, the network that the Agiliron was running on, and the one that the terminal is connected to on Wi-Fi does need to be on the same Wi-Fi network, because that's how it detects it and makes that pairing happen. Okay. So then you go through the usual transaction. You add a product, you select a payment type. So in this particular screen, you can see you selected Visa, and then you click the checkout button. Okay. So at that point, you get this screen here, which says, okay, it's a processing a sale. Please key and swipe card. So this is the point at which the terminal is activated. The customer needs to actually go in and either swipe the card, or if it's a chip card, then insert it into the device. And then at that terminal connects with Vantiv, processes the transaction, and when it's done, it will come back with the information captured here. And that's pretty much what I wanted to cover on the point of sale. And on the warehouse, a couple of quick bullets. One is in terms of the hardware for the warehouse app, currently supported on iPads and iPhones. If you're going to use a barcode scanner, especially for cycle counts, etc., if you wanted to use the scan mechanism to do the counting, then this is the device that we support, which is a Socket Mobile. It's a handheld, pretty nice device. And this again is the same one that's listed on the POS hardware page, so you can find the link there. And then the app itself, you can download it from the Apple iTunes Store. Okay. Okay, so I think that wraps up those. Let me see if there's any questions before I go into the theme editor. So Shelly, I think you're asking, can we use other terminals from other processors such as Intuit? So the answer is we can support anything that eConduit actually supports, right? And so, I don't think Intuit allows third-party developers right now to use their terminals. There was an effort at Intuit to begin doing that, but the product manager that actually was behind that effort left. We actually had engaged with them and we were working with them, and that process was underway. But then that lady left, and then I've not seen any subsequent efforts to pick that up. So with Intuit terminals, I don't think that works. But many others, other processors, like for example, we had some requests for Heartland and so on and so forth. Those do get supported through eConduit. Okay, so let me switch now to the theme editor. So we got about 10 minutes. So if there are other questions, continue posting it there. And once I run through this theme editor quickly, then we'll come back and go through those. So I'll start with a B2C store. I'll say new channel. So similar to what we did with the point of sale channel, I'll just create a new one. So here, the URL for the store, currency, price book, and then we'll inventory location, and then we'll pick a template. And so as I mentioned yesterday, the ones that support the theme editors are, the ones that start with a 5. So let me go ahead and pick this one. Okay. These are the flags that we discussed, the auto updates and stuff. Since this is not a live store, I'll leave that there. Starting order numbers in the channel, you can put in a number. If not, it'll start at 1. And then I will say save. Okay, this will take a second to create the store. Okay, there we go. And let me go to the last page. This is the one we just created. So go ahead and edit that. Okay, so similar to POS, now you have some additional panels here with various options and stuff, and we won't cover that right now. This is the temporary URL till you route the domain. So if you wanted this to be a domain, then you would need to obviously buy that domain at GoDaddy or any of the domain registration services. But this is a temporary URL that allows you to open that store that we just created. And so this is a vanilla store, logo, etc., search, cart, etc., and then some banner images and a footer, right? So let me go here. And right next to this template where we selected this, you can see there is a template editor button. So I'll go ahead and click that. And that brings up the screen where you can now modify the various components that are actually displayed on the store, right? So I'll start with some of these controls here. One is this menu up here, which allows you to select the various pages that are on the store. So what we're seeing up here right now is the header. Let's say if I selected the footer, you would see the footer, and this is what you see at the bottom here, right? Similarly, if I went to the index page, which is the home page, it shows you the banner images, the sliders, and so on, right? Essentially, this menu provides you with access to the various pages that are covered within that store. So this is the product page, shopping cart, manufacturers, checkout pages, so on and so forth. So with this, you have the ability to redesign or or make changes to each and every page that is in the store. Okay. In addition to that, there is a color settings, which are some global settings that configure colors for the various components within the pages. So background color, button colors, heading colors, so on and so forth. So those are configurable as well. Okay. So let me go back to the header, which we were looking at. Okay, so what do these various controls here enable you to do? So here you have the ability to see what does it look like when the store is displayed on desktop, tablets, or phones. Okay, so you can see what that display looks like. There's a drop-down menu here that allows you to save changes. So once you make some changes, it doesn't immediately take effect on the store till you actually hit save. But if you do make some changes and you don't like it, reset allows you to go back to whatever the factory settings were. And then if you save that, then that goes back and restores whatever you had done. So no harm done. You can play around with this like it's a sandbox, and then until you hit save, it doesn't actually get pushed to the live store. Okay. This for those people who understand HTML and want to be able to edit that, the access to the source is available. And then there is a preview that shows you what does it actually look like, right? Okay. These controls over here, what they allow you to do is add additional rows, right? So right now here we have this one row, which is this black unit here with some of these links and so on, and then you got this row here with the logo, the search, and the cart, right? So if I wanted to add another row, what this 8.4 says is it's going to have two columns in the proportion of 8:4. Okay, so if I added that, you can see it created a new row where this is the proportions being 8:4. Okay, if I did a 2:2, you can see it adds a row with 6 columns, each of them proportionally being divided. So that's what that control is for. Now, within each of these, you have controls to move things around. So if I wanted to drag this and change the order in which these are displayed, I can click on this and then do the move. If I wanted to do edits, add editable regions in here, I can do that, right? The trash allows you to remove stuff. So here are the ones that we created. I can take those off, right? And then as you right-click on any of these pieces, elements actually, it will have a context-sensitive menu that allows you to do things depending on what type of element it is. So in this particular case, it's an image, right? So if you wanted to update this logo image, you can click Update Image, upload a file and update the image there, right? And then if you wanted to move this image, whether it's left or centered or right, etc., you can do that as well, right? So, so this context-sensitive menu is available for each of these components depending on what type of element it is and what you can do with it. Here, for example, if I went to this one, this says, okay, this is a link, so I can, decide where does this link point to, where does it go, and that type of stuff. You can edit the change the text so that it displays differently than the one that we have there. And then if you want to change the font size, color, those types of things, you can do that as well. Okay, so so that's kind of the idea that we have a page for each of the pages within the store. What you get here is a design editor that allows you to make changes to each of these pages, add rows, modify the elements, change the fonts and sizes and colors and all those types of things. And so it gives a measure of control over how this thing looks and behaves. Okay, so this is something that's available only with the 5-star templates, like I said, and we are continuously adding to it. Next release, I think we have a couple more that are coming, and so we continue to kind of expand the set of themes that are covered within this capability that is available. Okay, so I think we got about a couple of minutes left. Let me pause there, see if there are any questions. Okay, if there are no other questions, then I guess we'll pause there. So tomorrow we'll cover, not tomorrow, Friday, we'll cover the CRM and the back office, and spend a big chunk of time on the new business intelligence module. So see you everyone on Friday, same time. Thanks. Bye now.